Hello, human. Reflective Self here with a new episode of Living Lessons, where I get to share honest insights from lived experience. Lessons that capture moments of clarity, vulnerability, and human understanding. Today's episode is all about relational patterns, emotional responses, and the freeing path towards self-trust. And so here's the lesson that I've learned. Patterns can be analyzed, but they ask to be felt. There are times when the truth of an experience does not arrive through thought. It arrives through a breath that suddenly feels a lot heavier. A smile that can no longer keep itself upright. An unease that returns each time a familiar behavior makes its way back into our lives. It is in these moments that our minds may still search for explanations, revisit conversations, build narratives, look for reasons to make what happened feel less painful. And some of those conversations, I remember them as if they were yesterday. When the birthday reminder appeared on my screen, I smiled. As someone quick to forget ages, birthdays, and all things with a timestamp, I couldn't help but relax as I saw my intention and effort come through. And so I reached out to my friend to wish her a happy birthday. Later in the day, she responded. She thanked me for the birthday message, and at the very end of our exchange, she wrote back, letting me know she would call. I didn't know when that call would come, but I was glad for the day it would come. But that day never came. And so I figured, with her having just moved across provinces and still adjusting to a new place and season, how could she possibly have time to remember her own intention? A feeling of neglect started to surface in what I could only describe as a sunken heart. Instead of allowing myself to feel it in full, I reached for reason. I returned to an old reliable phrase that had always helped me make sense of the world. Life happens. And with that, the twinge of neglect I had started to feel, I felt no more. Fast forward to when I found myself reaching the final scribbled pages of the navy gold embossed journal she had gifted me. As the final scribbles and doodles filled the lined sheet of paper, all I could feel was gratitude. And so I reached out again. This time, with thanks. What a happy surprise it was for her. She thanked me in turn, and at the very end of our exchange, she wrote back to me to let me know she would call. I didn't know when that call would come, but I was glad for the day it would come. But that day never came. And so this time, I didn't let that old phrase have its way. I allowed for both to be true. Life happens, and the neglect was real. The friendship had reached the end of its season, and there was no need for me to prolong what could no longer sustain it. And so, like the falling leaves of autumn, I released her. Patterns can be found all around us. They can appear in the thick braided yarn interlocking along a crochet sweater. They can emerge in the layered rings of an aging oak tree. They live not just in nature or the things we create. They also live within us. They are the very threads that connect emotions to thoughts, thoughts to behaviors, And behaviors, with enough repetition over time, can become fully formed habits. They move with rhythm, often revealing what may come next. With minds that naturally seek protection and certainty, one might believe that patterns would always be welcomed. After all, they leave us with clues that offer insight. They can help make the uncertain feel a little more predictable. But predictability that is freely given is not always easy to receive. For the parts of us that are self-aware, a pattern may be welcomed as clarity. And for the parts of us that are still finding their way, that same pattern may be missed, resisted, or explained away. Patterns continue even when no one is there to witness them, but they would rather have an audience to call them out. Relationships offer us that audience. Whether a relationship has lasted decades or is just entering its honeymoon phase, it creates opportunities for exchange. Through another person, more of us may be revealed, regardless of who receives that revelation. From these exchanges, emotions are expressed, words are spoken, and intentions are made. Our minds can collect these moments into promises and impressions. We may either observe them without judgment, like a scientist starting on a hypothesis, or we may begin to project our own interpretations onto them, where emotions suddenly become intoxicating. Words find themselves layered with meaning, and intentions start carrying the weight of potential. And if ever behaviors fail to live up to that potential, we may find ourselves in a tug of war, where somewhere inside us, an honest emotion begins to rise. But before that emotion can reach the surface, rationalization rushes in. It may sound like compassion. It may sound like empathy, understanding. We may tell ourselves, maybe they have been through so much. They probably did not mean it that way. They are most likely adjusting to a difficult season. Life happens. Any one of those explanations may be true, but even a reasonable explanation can become a place of hiding when it repeatedly asks us to dismiss our own experience. Instead of accepting what is in front of us, we may continue to build more convincing narratives about who we believe the other person to be, rather than who they have consistently shown themselves to be. We search for cracks in the foundation, only to reinforce it. Perhaps what frightens us is not always the reality of the relationship. Perhaps it is the fear that the interpretation we built around the person was wrong all along, that the desire for the relationship we hope to have could only exist in possibility. Because if we were wrong all along, what does that say about us? Can our judgment be trusted? Can we be trusted? There is a certain kind of grief waiting inside those questions. It is not only the grief for the person or the relationship. It can also be the grief for the future we imagined, the emotions we felt deeply, the words we gave meaning, the potential we believed possible, the version of ourselves who continued to believe. No wonder the journey to that acceptance takes time. Sometimes, rationalization is not merely an attempt to protect the relationship. It is an attempt to protect us from the grief. And so a question to ask might be this: what if we allowed ourselves the possibility of grief? Not because we hope for it, not because we expect every relationship to end, but because making room for grief may allow us to enter relationships without needing to run from whatever weather appears on the horizon. Whether it comes in the form of a gentle breeze, a gust of wind, or a full-on storm. Some relationships may withstand the changing weather. Others may eventually reveal that they were only built for a particular season. Accepting the season's end does not mean erasing the relationship. Releasing someone does not mean we have to rewrite that time spent as a mistake. It may simply mean recognizing what was and being honest about what is. Analysis may help us recognize a pattern, but it can also keep us circling the same wound. Why did they do it? Did they even care? What if I misunderstood? What if they change? While understanding can provide context and compassion, it can also have us burdened to no end. So instead of keeping ourselves bound to endless analysis, maybe we can reach for the keys that never left the back pocket. Maybe we can finally release ourselves from the responsibility of solving patterns that never belonged to us, and instead surrender to the honest feelings that resulted from them. Once we do, the questions we begin to ask no longer need to center our worth on those patterns. The questions would center us. From there, we can start to ask how we feel. Do we feel elevated or shrunken? Do we feel at ease or unsettled? Do our thoughts leave us with a smile or with lines of constant worry? Do we feel considered or neglected? Are we more of ourselves or less? Patterns reveal a truth that interpretations alone cannot reach. They are not indictments of our worth. They do not exist to pass judgment on our complexity or history. They are simply information. Information that we can feel through the weight of our breaths, the shape of our expressions, and the rhythm of our heartbeat. They do not ask to be explained away, only felt. And all that remains is to trust in the feeling, regardless of hope, possibility, or the weather. And that is the lived lesson that I've learned. It's not a universal prescription, but it is mine. Keep what stays, release what doesn't. Until next time.